Good morning, everyone. Good morning on this beautiful Saturday. Welcome to another episode here on the Remedy. I am Pastor D, delighted to be with you once more, and we have a brand new show for you. Today, we are surrounded with people not just here in America, we have people as far as India and as close as Canada who is going to be on the show today. So here they are, Vlad and Abhijit from um,
Hi, Moni. How are you?
what's going on, my friend? How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
How's it going? Hi, Vlad.
Hey,
Hi,
how's it
Patty.
going, DJ?
Hi.
Well, guys, welcome to the show. Welcome to the web meeting. This is your very first time, so let's take a moment or two to introduce you guys to those who are watching us on the show today. So, Vlad, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and where are you right now?
Yeah, so my name is Vlad Aiti. I'm in Ottawa, Canada, and I am a Hollywood certified film critic and media entrepreneur here in Canada. So I have the chance to have a lot of conversation with people from the different walks of life, and get to know about them and discuss a lot of different things, a lot of different topics. I'm also a writer and a public speaker as well here in the city. So yeah, that kind of sums up who I am. You can find me on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm also the editor of Black Soul Immortal on Instagram. That's black.soul.immortal, where I do the promotion of positive Black images and positive content that sort of counteracts the negative stereotypes that have been portrayed in media of Black communities around the world. So that sums me up.
All right. Well, thank
I,
you.
I love the energy, Vlad.
Thank you.
Yeah. And at the end of the show, we'll make sure that we have all that information so we can post it on the program for everyone for especially people who would like to get in touch with you. Thank you so much. Abhijit, what's going on?
Hi, Moni. I'd like to introduce myself as a pharmacist right now. I've worked in the industry as a scientist for a few years. I'm still doing freelancing work and I help out patients right now. It's really a bad time going on in India, but like we are coping.
Yeah. And we are glad and grateful that in the midst of everything that's going on, you guys take the time to be with us today. So we're gonna jump right in. And of course, I'm sorry, Pat. Everybody knows who you are. We have the scientist up here, the pharmacist. Pat, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Um, you know what? Yesterday was my youngest one graduation from
Congrats,
Temple,
by the
so I
way.
was very excited about
Yeah.
that. So kudos to her. Abhijit, we appreciate both of you coming in, but Abhijit, I know it's 10:30 p.m. for you right now. So a special thanks for that, and our hearts goes to the people in India because it's I Abhijit and I have like worked together for the past 15 years, and he's one of the most optimistic people that I know. And the past week, I've heard sadness, I've heard concern in his voice.
Yeah.
And he's the kind of person that always find a silver lining, always find that positive. And when I heard that, I knew that the situation was dire. It's so our hearts and prayers goes to everybody in India. We're praying that you guys can pull through. And I know yourself, you have several family members unfortunately going through this. So it is definitely a humanitarian thing. And this is what the show's about. But my prayers are definitely with the people in India right now.
Yeah.
Thank you
I
so
mean,
much, Patty. Thank you.
yeah, to me, it's important that even though here in the United States things may look different, but at the end of the day, we are no different than what's happening over there.
Agreed.
What I mean by that is those are people, just like when we were first dealing with the pandemic here in the US. I know how I felt, and I know how people around me, those who were close to me, felt. So I can only imagine what's happening right now, whether it's in India or in Canada. In fact, I just heard just recently a news from Canada. I'm going to play a little clip from it, and then Vlad, I want you to jump in and kind of give us a good understanding of what's happening in Canada.
We have to assume the variants are in every community of our province, and we need to stop that spread. That means we have to stop our movements. We have to do what we did in the first wave. I'd say even more than we did in the first wave. And today we are locking down with even more tighter restrictions. Effective 8 a.m. tomorrow, our border becomes even more closed for the whole month of May. That's no coming in and out unless it's absolutely essential. If you bought a house and are moving here, you'll have to wait. If you have a closing date, you'll have to do that virtually. If you want to spend your summer here or go to a summer home, you cannot do that right now. Delay your trip. If you're an essential service worker, of course, and you have a medical, legal, or childcare commitment, that's the only exception. If you are a snowbird or a student returning to your permanent residence, you can come home, but you must still follow the protocols, including proving that that's your status. And there will be penalties if those are lying or if they have falsified documents. You can be fined the $2,000. Please stop looking for loopholes. Please stay away to slow the spread.
To me, that just sums it up.
Yeah. So no, the situation in Canada is is very there's a lot of different angles we can observe it from, and in many ways it's sort of fascinating if you want to look at it from a sociological perspective. In the sense that Canada is a country where we like the idea of diversity and freedom and all that kind of stuff. People are not used to be confined or to be told by their government or by the community leaders like you have to stay home. There's going to be penalties if you catch in the street past a certain time. There are actually fines that are being given to people who are traveling for non-essentials, let's say, and they're being fined for over $1,500 if they're traveling past a certain time and stuff like that. Although we understand the reason behind it when we look at what's happening around the world and the importance of preventing the spread of this virus, there's a sense of I want to say like a communal anxiety, a communal stress that's been
Hmm.
supposed
Hmm.
to be felt by
Hmm.
everyone. You know what I mean? And it's something that even though we're having interactions via Zoom right now and all that kind of stuff, people are also missing uh, basic human interactions. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And the thing is that if you it's very hard for a community for especially in Canada where we talk we have so much we spread a lot of awareness about emotional health, mental health, and all that kind of stuff. We
Hmm.
do understand the importance of protecting the population's physical health, but the fact that it's affecting people's mental health at the same time, this is what the government has had the let's say that this is the biggest challenges that the government has had to face, unfortunately, because as much as they're trying to prevent certain things from happening, prevent the spread of this virus and all that kind of stuff, the rules that they're implementing, they're trying to find ways to implement them without affecting the population's mental health, because that's the moment where, of course, it's happened in Canada already, where in some of the big cities, people start marching and protesting, which is completely counterproductive when it comes to this. When we talk about stopping the spread of a virus, though, unfortunately, when you're in a country where people are now used to these types of restriction, it does affect them in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of different angles we can look at it from.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, are you guys experiencing the psychological distress of living with this virus right now as we did here in the US? Because I know for us, one of the major things that personally I had to deal with, it was that the fear of not really knowing what's happening. You hear it from the television screen, you hear it from your government, and you're seeing the numbers increasing and so forth, you can't help but to have this fear, and it's that's evolving fear inside of you. Where are you guys right now with that?
Unfortunately, you're right. We are experiencing. this psychological stress, unfortunately, and not just that, but it's very contagious. You know what I mean? In a
Yeah.
sense, when you watch the news, when you go on social media, the amount of everybody's hoping for good news, but unfortunately, good news are not they're nowhere near in sight. You know what I mean? That's just a reality until
Mhm.
everybody gets vaccinated, until all that stuff happens. The situation is what it is. So yes, there's definitely a psychological stress that's happening. I want to say it's probably on par with the U.S., but the outrage, or don't want to say the outrage, but their response hasn't been as vocal as it has been in the U.S. But it's definitely being felt in the communities that we live in. People are very social here. You know what I mean? People like to have their garage sale seasons and all that kind of stuff. It's You can think of some of the Canadian communities as a bunch of small towns. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And you
Mhm.
see how, and you know how small towns, what the their lifestyle is like in small towns, right? So when you spread that across like an entire country, it definitely affects people on the deep psychological level.
Yeah. So, Abhijit, I guess the question is the same for you as well. What's happening in India right now, and how are you guys coping with what is this? Is this a second or third wave for you guys right now?
Yeah, actually, this is a second wave that's going on right now, and we were like pretty comfortable in October last year. And the same way Vlad has said, we were thinking that um, we are we are over with it, and we will not catch the virus again. But that's not the case now. We are close to like half a million daily cases coming up, like half a million cases coming up daily,
Wow.
positive cases coming up daily,
Wow.
and the, the peak is not yet in sight. And like the news is coming up that we are going towards a third wave as well. We might see a third wave as well, and it's really scaring because news says that now the kids are more vulnerable in the third wave. So the reason is like nobody knows the reason, because if you look at the stats, then the cities that were worst hit in the first wave, like Mumbai, Pune, they are hit again, and the virus that was present earlier, like called the old strain, the older strain that was present in the first wave, that is only 4.5% in the second wave. So it's a new strain that has come up, and we don't know where this wave is going to end, where is the peak, and when will we see the peak. So it's really scary over here.
Yeah. Um, Again, I'm just trying to process this. Now, you mentioned this is a second wave that the
Yeah.
country is going through. Um, I know here when we were talking about in the US, you know, most of the people that were dying from this were actually people who didn't have access to care. It was and people, from my culture, or I would say blacks were the most
Vulnerable.
vulnerable, and of course we were dying from it
Mm.
at a rapid rate.
Brown people as well.
Yeah.
But
People
like,
So
of color.
Nodi,
how?
I won't say that over here in India. Like I was thinking the same thing, that people who are uneducated, who are poor, or who are living in crowded places, they are getting hit. But that's not the case. That's not the case in India. I have like personally my relatives. Two of my relatives are doctors. They were hit. One is still in the ICU. My cousin, he is in the ICU, and he is well educated. He gets a pretty good income, and older folks uh, are in the ICU, and like we take care of them, and they
Mhm.
maintain social distancing, but still they are getting infected. So it's really strange, so to say.
And to add to what Abhijit has said, if you talk to anybody at my house, they'll tell you that I'm um, I, just like extra with the virus. I personally don't think that I'm extra. I think that I'm cautious. And when you're in the science field, and Abhijit, I know you're in the science field, the concept of virus alone is one that till now we can't truly understand how a virus operates. And to be honest with you, that's what scares me. And those things that Abhijit is saying, where you see the trend and you're following that trend, and then all of a sudden the trend becomes something totally different.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, it makes it somewhat impossible to some extent, hence the reason why you still have the common cold.
Yeah,
Why do
exactly.
we still have the common cold?
Mm-hmm.
We get
Exactly.
colds. And it's because the virus mutates, the virus goes and trick our mind. And that's why for me, I refuse to get comfortable, and I know that we need to get to a place of new normal. I don't mind getting to a place of new normal. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, parents were not allowed at the graduation. So I was at a field and we decided to sit behind the fence. And we're sitting behind the fence. I have two masks on, and this lady behind me, she's shouting right behind me, no mask, no nothing. So I turned my head and I said, "Would you mind wearing a mask? You're literally behind me shouting." She goes, "I'm vaccinated." I go, "I don't care." And
That's
unfortunately, when you have things like that, people specifically, now one, I don't really know that you're vaccinated. I really don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Two, I really don't care that you're vaccinated. You behind my head, you shouting, and with all due respect, I understand, and I'm vaccinated myself, but I don't go places without my mask because I want to protect me and I want to protect the next person. Because with all due respect, in the science field, I still think there's a whole lot we don't know.
You're totally
So
right, Ferdy. And that's the biggest misconception that's going on. That if you're
in the
vaccinated, you won't be
US,
transmitted.
specifically in the US right now.
Yeah, no, it's everywhere. Like you are transmitting the virus even if you are vaccinated. People need to understand that these vaccines are only going to stop you getting a high rate of infection, but you are still a transmitter.
Yeah,
So
just like
people
the
don't
flu.
understand.
People get the flu vaccine every year. The people that do get it, but that doesn't stop you from actually getting the flu. What it can do is it probably can stop you from not getting it as severe as you would get it. So unfortunately, it is a misconception, and I don't know. I haven't read, but I know some people have said, even the CDC have said that. Again, I'm not quoting because I didn't see it myself, but that's one of the problem in the U.S. Most of us in the U.S. have options to be vaccinated at this time. I think 16 and up. I think somebody even told me, I haven't seen it myself, that it's 12 and up. I don't even know. I didn't see that, so I don't want to quote it. But I know 16 and up for most states are able to be vaccinated. But there's that misconception of, because I'm vaccinated, I don't even need to wear this. I don't even need to wear that. And to me, we're doing ourselves an injustice as to when we can go into that new normal that we also want to be. And for me, also, in terms of the psychosocial aspect of this, I'm a compliant person. I've been very compliant since I was a kid. And the way that I see this is I understand not being able to do this, that I miss it as well. But I'm also from the school of, I would rather be locked up for 3 years than be locked up for the rest of my life. So if I need to be locked up for 3 years, 100%, so that we can see 20 to 30 years in a better light, I'm willing to do so.
It's very interesting that you're saying that, because that's been the main criticism of the tactics that the government has applied throughout this entire pandemic. I mean, it's being
Mm-hmm.
criticized precisely for that, because we're going into our here in I mean the province of Ontario in Canada, and we're going into our third lockdown, which is eventually going to lead into our fourth lockdown that they've already predicted. And
Mm-hmm.
people are literally saying, like, if you could just like lock everything down for an extended period of time, let's say for If you lock everything down for a year, we rather that than being stuck in this situation for 2 years, 3 years, and 4 years on end. So I totally echo what you're saying.
Yeah,
Vlad,
I mean, go ahead, Abhijit.
yeah, Vlad, the thing is that the same thing happened to us last year. So we had a proper lockdown. We had a lockdown for like 3, 4 months, and we were so relaxed, and that is was what caused the second wave this time. So governments actually don't have any clue of what's going on. So that might be the reason they act funny sometimes, and people don't agree.
Would you say, if it's okay to ask, would you say that it's predominantly their worry about the economy and trying to open things back up because they have to sort of like gauge both
Exactly.
sides, the health and the economy?
The capitalists are going to ask for facts from the government, and the government doesn't have that actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I mean, I do understand the logistics, and I do understand from both sides. I understand it from a
I do
government
as well.
perspective, and I also understand why it's important for us to remain locked down. But even that, I remember for us in the US, there is such a thing as a lockdown fatigue, where you yourself say enough is enough. I can't take one more day of this, right? So and it's again, Pat, you mentioned that new normal is really trying to figure out a way, how do we live with this? Because the truth of the matter is, I'm not p- presenting an idea that's new to anyone, but COVID, from what I'm saying so far, it's here. Okay, it's gonna be here for a while,
Not gonna go away for a
right?
while.
So it's, if because of that, and the government kind of look at it this way, since it's going to be around for a while, we have to kind of figure out how to help people to live with it, right? And so you're always going to have those who don't believe that. There's a lot of conspiracy online about COVID and so forth. You're always going to have those who don't believe that this thing even exists. You're also going to have those who believe, well, you know what, I already got vaccinated, so I can go out and enjoy my life the way I used to. I think it's important for us to really understand and realize maybe the way things used to be is no longer that normal. So we're gonna have to adjust to what that new normal look like, and it varies from what I'm hearing right now. It varies from country to country. I mean, what's happening in India and what's happening in Canada are similar as they are, but they are very different as well. Just like what's happening here in the U.S. So, um, and Pat, and I can understand your frustration with the lady sitting behind you, because I too feel that when I'm working around and I'm seeing people not wearing masks or whatever, sometimes I get frustrated. But I find myself sometimes forgetting to put on my mask as well. Like the
No,
other day, I was out with my wife and we went for a walk or whatever, and I keep putting the mask down, and she keeps telling me to put your mask back on.
and
So it's that constant reminder
no,
that we need to have.
and I totally understand. Like there were some other people there without mask. I didn't have a problem as well as long as they weren't talking. If
Yeah.
you talking and you screaming and you shouting behind somebody's head, that means protocols, things coming out. Then put your mask on. I have two masks on, but the back of my head now, don't know what's in the back of my head. So that kind of stuff, because when I think of it, then I'm thinking of 2 to 3 years from now, or not even that. Look at what happened with India. Things were, I used to talk to Abidjan. I'm like, how things? He's like, what, everybody's going about their business. Things are doing well. And then boom, you have, and that can still happen to us.
So I want to ask Abby. I,
Happen
I
to
want
us.
to ask Abigail this question, because I was reading about what's happening in India, and they mentioned how right now there's this new strain of virus, okay, a variant of coronavirus, and it's called that B1617.
Yeah.
How is this one different from the world's population coronavirus? How is this one different? What
Or
is it
then is
doing?
it different from the one in Brazil? Is it different from the one in South Africa that we know of? How is it different from the other variants that we're hearing?
Yeah.
Well, this is the sort of a remix of the Indian one and the UK one, and it has like it can infect people who are already vaccinated, and it is infecting kids. So that is a serious issue. So,
Wow.
like, you don't want kids getting hurt. So
Oh,
that's the reason this is really scary. So the B1617, that is called a double mutant variant, and like this thing can happen anywhere. In a
hmm.
layman's way, so to say, these viruses are like computer viruses.
Yeah.
You have antiviruses installed on your systems, but still you get infected, and you do get ransomware sometimes.
Hmm.
So, in the same way, this virus can infect anyone in any country, and it's just that if it gets comfortable in an area, it wreaks havoc.
I have another question. Thank you. Outside of the infection rate that you've seen in terms of that the new variant, what about the severity of the virus itself, like within kids and within adults? How severe is it showing to be?
The variant that is specifically B1617, that the double mutant variant, is not so severe if you are vaccinated. But if you're not vaccinated, it is pretty severe. And if you talk about CT scans, then on a CT scan, you're getting a 21 grade out of 25.
Okay, and with a population of India being as large as it is and having such a contagious rate, I can imagine why this is now a humanitarian crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was reading about the flu that happened in like 1920,
Yeah,
1920,
1915 pandemic.
in,
Yeah.
even that India had an infection rate of close to 5%. That was pretty high as compared to other countries. And like the reason find is because of the high population load. That
Yeah.
is the only reason that I can think of. And like even in cities that are highly populated, had the first wave, had an infection rate of close to 50% population being infected in the first wave, they are getting reinfected. My cousin, he has been infected in the first wave. He has been now reinfected in the second wave. He was not feeling well. Like he was pretty bad in the second wave as well. So it's not that if you have been infected, you are you will
You're
be
exempt from it.
spared. Yeah.
You're not exempt from
Oh
it.
man.
Wow.
Again, it's almost like looking at the writing on the wall. I know we're not there here in the US. We're not, but just listening to you, it's an indication of what could happen here in the US.
Exactly.
And so I'm trying to understand, and I'm trying to process in my mind. If we could say, what can we do differently? Is there anything that we can learn from India that here in the US we can at least implement to prevent ourselves from, you know what I mean? It's almost like I'm trying to process all of this, and at the end of the day, is there really anything that one can do? We hear about wearing masks, washing your hands, or avoid social distancing. Is that really enough right now? Especially summer is around the corner. People are going out. People are getting back to that whatever that normal life is. What should we do as we are preparing to move into the summer months?
For me, I would say exactly those things that we've been taught to do, that as time goes by, we think, oh, you know what? There's not a whole lot of cases in the US, or you don't see them in the news as often. We have the vaccine. Summer's coming. Summer's coming is fine. You can go to the beach as far as I'm concerned, but those precautionary method should be exercised even more so. But I think over time, people exercise them less because you get so lax. And I think that you can still have the new normal while still establishing. At the beginning of when we were getting the vaccine, we were told get the vaccine, but still continue to do these things. I remember in January, Monday, when you took the vaccine,
Mhm.
that was the slogan with the vaccine.
Mhm.
You're going to get the vaccine, but you're going to continue to wear your mask. You're going to continue to social distance. But
Mhm.
now you're hearing, you got the vaccine. You can have, 10, 20 people without anything. You can have this, you can have that. And I'm afraid that these kind of things are eventually the kind of stuff that might make us get into a situation where India is right now, because we're getting so lax. I'm all for summer's coming, the heat. I'm the kind of person, once I see the heat, I'm gone. So I want to enjoy the heat, but I want to enjoy the heat safely so that comes November, December, we're not where we were last year where everything was closed because we're totally down.
Yeah. Yeah. Vlad, what's happening in Canada? What are you guys doing to cope?
To cope with everything, well, first of all, there's right now there's a lot of online events that are taking place, and that's one thing that I really find interesting personally, because I'm a media entrepreneur. I'm a radio host. I do a lot of different things of the sort. So one thing they've done is like they've made online entertainment a lot more accessible to everybody, out of hope that people actually do stay home and actually do follow the guidelines. Unfortunately, right now, like I said, the lockdown is so severe that it's impossible to travel, for non-essential, for what they call non-essentials. So
Mhm.
if you're going to, so pretty much you can only go to the grocery store, and there's only specific aisles that are made, that are open. Everything else is closed. So it's very, very severe. So except for the online entertainment that has been made more accessible to everybody, unfortunately, that's the only way that people have really that people have found to actually, uh, you know to cope and to deal with all of this.
Wow. Wow. So, all right. So you guys are on complete lockdown. So basically, just like things were here in the US when we first started with the pandemic.
Yeah.
Actually, I believe they're a little worse. They have a curfew of like 8 p.m. I think you guys do.
Some provinces actually, funny enough, so I live right on the edge between, right on the frontier between two provinces. So there's Quebec on the right and there's Ontario on the left. And so Ottawa is right on the frontier between Ontario and Quebec. And a lot of people actually live in Quebec and work in Ottawa, or vice versa. The problem that's happening is that in Quebec, there's a curfew that's been implemented. It's about, right now it's 9:30. It was 8:30, but people really couldn't deal with this. So right now it's 9:30. Which means that if you're traveling in Quebec for non-essential, you can get a fine for $1,500. But it is not. People are not just living in Quebec and working in Ontario. Some people are living in Ottawa and have girlfriends in Gatineau, or vice versa. You know what I mean? Or
Mhm.
friends that are living like right on the other line of the frontier. So really, what it does, it just it sort of has the effect, and I don't want to sound too dramatic, of some sort of like Berlin Wall type of thing. You know what I mean? Where the people that you are the most close to, that you really want to spend time with, are literally people that you're not able to interact with, because there's this sort of invisible wall that's blocking access to this. So it's really unfortunate. You know what I mean? In every provinces, is very similar to the states in the regards that every province can sort of like implement their own, well, they can implement their own rules, and decide to take this on in their own ways or whatnot, right? But
Yeah.
we have, again, like right now in Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada. You know what I mean? People live in Gatineau, which is in Quebec, and work in Ottawa, which is in Ontario. And you have these two provinces that do not agree as to how they're gonna actually tackle this thing. It really disrupts people's lives,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to school, to work, and to making relationships. It's really disruptive.
I have I guess, have they not made provision, blood, for like work from home? I know in some cases they have made some provisions to make it a little bit more flexible and accessible in terms of that. And I know I think I have a cousin. She used to work at nighttime, and then I guess she might have been, I guess the government provided laid off money so that she used to work, I think, from like 7 to like 12:30 p.m. And with the curfew, since she was not non-essential, so what they did was she was kind of laid off temporarily, but they paid her for that so that she still be able to be home and not be part of the people traveling. So I know that for Canada specifically, that the government has made a lot of monetary contributions to help alleviate some of these unfortunately burden that came with the curfew.
Yeah, the government has done that. The one thing that we cannot complain about is the financial.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, again,
they be sending you guys money.
yeah. I mean, we're getting 2,200 a month from the government. You know what I mean?
What?
Yeah, Serb is 2,200. Serb was
That
$2,200.
is
What?
like I'm
That's
moving to
20.
Canada.
When we get locked down, well, at least for me, I got no money. Like,
Oh,
why are you getting $2,200?
well, no, our government has been. That's when it came to supporting. First of all, you got to understand also that Canada has a much lower population than the states, right? So, so you have to take a lot of factors in consideration. But as soon as the lockdown happened, the government was quick to gather all the financial resources and actually provide like this what we call CERB, which is a taxable benefit. And and Canadians have had the chance have been in a situation where they were able to receive a lot of benefits when it came to this COVID situation. You know what I mean? There's again, because of the differences between the states and India and Canada, there's a lot of different factors that you have to look at as well. For example, when it comes to the financial resources for this health for dealing with this health crisis, we have free healthcare, which means that and that's another thing that is kind of a double-edged sword, because yes, healthcare is free, but that also means that in the event that this thing was to spread super wide, there would be even more people in the hospitals, and we don't have those resources. You know what I mean? It's not free healthcare is not an indication of unlimited resources. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah, yeah.
it's all these factors that you look at, and because of that, that's one of the many reasons why the government was able to implement some rules and some strategies to make sure that the people were personally financially compensated or supported throughout this thing, whether it's receiving some tax benefits for using the internet at your house because you're working from home and things like that. All that has really worked. What really hasn't worked, unfortunately, is small businesses. Unfortunately, we're just seeing a lot of chains of small businesses that are specifically Canadian, that have been shutting down. Every month we hear about a new one. You know what I mean? Like whether it's like a chain of cinema or a restaurant chain or something like that. And it's really heartbreaking because those are like we have a lot of competition with the U.S. market when they come here in Canada. You know what I mean? So having like the Canadian uh, restaurants and businesses pretty much like suffering like these shutdowns and whatnot. Like that's the one thing that the government hasn't really been able to strategize very much.
I have a question because you mentioned free healthcare, and I'm thinking about Abjet and India right now. We all know that COVID-19 is not a public health pandemic. It's not only a public health pandemic, but we also know that it contributes to the mental health issues that need to be addressed to help people to recover. So, are there anything in place right now, um, while we are in the middle of this pandemic, whether it's in Canada or in India, that are designed to help with the psychological? It's almost like providing a psychological first aid, just like we receive a check from the government. You were mentioning in Canada every month. Do they have things that they set up, whether it's through social media or whatever, to kind of help with the psychological aspect, because people are dealing with high stress, expectable stress. People are dealing with anxiety that we mentioned earlier. People are dealing with sleep problems. People are dealing with even just adjust to the social distancing idea, and not being able to see their families if they don't live in the same household and so forth. What are some of the things that they have implemented to kind of help with the psychological aspect in India, for example?
Well, Moni, India is very well versed in that way because families are really bonded together in India. It's not like in US or in Canada where you have nuclear families more often. Here in India, we have more of joint families where parents and kids most often live together. So it's not like we have 3 or 4 people in a house. We have more than 4 people living in the same house. So that's one factor that helps.
Hmm.
The second thing is that we have a lot of uh, temples and mosques and uh, what do you call gurdwaras, the Sikh temples out here in India. Like they're huge in numbers, and they help a lot of people. They distribute free meals. They distribute some of these temples have been changed into vaccination centers where there's lack of hospitals, and we believe a lot in God, and we thank God a lot in that U.S., Canada, and India are like people here are free to speak. We don't have to hide things,
Hmm.
unlike so to say in China where you don't know what's going on. We have the numbers, the correct numbers of what is going on. So in that way, we are prepared, and that is the main reason that people are not misguided. They know that this thing is here, this is real, and if you know it is real, then you face it in the right way. If you are misguided, you tend to get so to say misled towards the
Hmm.
catastrophe.
I have a question, Abhijit. Do you have the option, like for in the US, when we want specifically, it started before, but I know definitely specifically as part of the pandemic, we use it more and more to do grocery online and have them delivered. Do you guys have the option of these things, or do you necessarily have to go out for everything you need specifically during these times right now?
Well, Patty, for an average family to someone above average, you have all the facilities you want. You can have anything delivered to your home. You can have your medical tests done at home. So it is pretty comfortable for someone who has the resources. And so to say, around 30-35% people in India have the resources. Around 50% of the people don't have such resources, but still they have the means. People support them. People who uh, have the money support people who don't have the money. So that way things are going on.
And I love what I'm hearing, because you see, it's like sometimes when the worst thing happens to us, it brings the best out of us as well. And for
Exactly.
to hear people are supporting each other that way, and the government is stepping in and helping and providing the necessities and the money that people need in order to survive since they can't go to work, speaks volume. And I'm very grateful that all of us who are sitting here are living in places where actually those things do exist, that they,
Yeah.
we have access to that. I can help but to also think about places perhaps who don't have a government where those things are made available to them. So it's kind of hard. Vlad, tell us a little bit about the question I asked earlier, as far as what are some of the things that um, um, they have put in place to help with some of the psychological trauma that people are dealing with in Canada?
The number one thing I would say is it's something that we can't take for granted, even though it doesn't sound like that much of a big deal. But predominantly, it's being filtering false information. The
Mm,
reason why I'm saying that is because the information that we're getting is already stressful. It's already negative. It's already prone to give you anxiety and all that
mhm,
kind of stuff, right? But unfortunately, in this age of social media right now, it's really easy for everybody to sort of like come up and say whatever's on their mind, give their opinions in that way or that way. You hear like all these conspiracy theories about whether it's COVID or the vaccine and all that kind of stuff. So right now, and when you add like the stressful factors of these things, it's very easy for people to dive into what we call fear mongering. You know what I mean? And
mhm,
one thing that in Canada has been done very well it's been um, you know it's been filtering out the false information and giving it to us straight, because sometimes you sort of have to rip things up like a bandage, you know what I mean, like a band-aid. And we're blessed enough that the prime minister addresses I don't know if he still does it, but there was a moment of time for a period of a year where he was actually addressing the nation every day, and just to make sure that it provide the information every day. Here's the new update that we have in regards to things and what's happening. Here's the new update in regards to the situation. That way, you can sort of tell that transparency. It
mhm,
that it allows people to sort of like it's already hard to trust your government. You know what I mean? But
mhm,
it's for whatever reason, but that transparency has allowed people to sort of like to alleviate some of the anxiety that people feel and the stress that people feel. So really what they've done is providing like a clear line of communication. It's very easy to pick up the phone and call Health Canada and tell them that you have this symptom and this symptom and this symptom, and they tell you what to do. You know what I mean? It's
mhm,
very easy to, if you come in contact with somebody, it's very easy to call Health Canada and ask them what should be my next course of action, and they will tell you. So the number one thing that they've done in this kind of situation is like it's like social therapy, where it's like where the line of communications have been so open and direct, that it's a lot of people. It has allowed people to sort of like um, you know to sort of again like filter out the fear mongering, filter out the false information, filter out the quote unquote fake news or whatever,
mhm,
because
mhm,
it's so easy to spread. And the last thing you want in this pandemic is have people receiving information that is not accurate, right?
mhm.
You don't want people to start thinking, yeah, it's fine, you can walk around without a mask, like the vaccine, it just protects you from everything. You want people to have the right information, especially when they're already wary of the kind of information that they're getting.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. One thing I wanted to find out as well is when we were dealing with the pandemic, the early stage of the pandemic here in the US, the elderly were also a population that was highly at risk, nursing homes and places like that. Has it been the same for you guys in India, also in Canada?
And to
Yeah, it
add
is.
to what Mundy has said, for all the waves or just for specific waves?
Yeah,
No, it's been the same for the first and the second wave. Elderly have been vulnerable.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's been about the same for us too. Yeah, there's not too much I could add on that. It's been very similar on that level.
yeah. So again, again, it's like I'm beating this dead bush here. As different as this is, it sounds very familiar to what we've been through in the U.S. And so, if someone is watching the show and still thinking, well, you know what, the U.S. we did great. It's over with. Now people are getting vaccinated. I just want you to remember that based on the information that's being shared here today, that we are not out of this yet,
Yeah.
and that we all have our part to play. And I know it's hard. Trust me, I'm in there with you guys every single day, and I'm dealing with this just the same. I work for public health, so I've seen it. I know what it's like, but it's equally important for people to understand that unless we all take these things seriously, um, it's going to take longer for us to really deal with COVID the way that we should. Um, Anything else that Pat, perhaps you
And
want
that's
to?
been my mindset. And if you, when I talk to most people that work in hospitals, people I work with that are physicians that truly understand what this is about, they've all erred on the side of caution. When you see
Mhm,
certain things and when you know certain things about how a virus mutates and things like that, it does make you err on the side of caution, but not to say to the point where you are going to be so afraid that you're gonna have an anxiety attack, because that's not good either.
mhm,
But nonetheless, we are finding ways to, we are, we are a population of resilience. We find ways to deal with things. We find ways to laugh. You'll be surprised sometimes, things can look the grimace and you still find a way to laugh. And that's what matters.
mhm.
But what I don't like is when people are putting other people in danger, because you might get it and nothing happened to you, but you might cause 3 to 4 people to pass. Then a family member has to mourn 3 to 4 people for your negligence. So that's definitely something. Now, I know the US has been well stocked in terms of vaccinations. Where are Canada and India in terms of that?
Yeah,
And
well,
we're not saying people need to be vaccinated or don't need to be vaccinated. That's not what we're saying at all. People do what they want to do. But in terms of the supply and demand and how it's been offered,
Mhm.
where are the two countries in that?
if you don't mind, I'll go first. It, it it hasn't been the best rollout, unfortunately. You know what I mean? And the reason being is it's just like the access to the vaccine and all that kind of stuff. It hasn't been, as um, it hasn't gone the way we wanted it to go so far. But they're making effort to change things around. Right now, obviously, like the essential workers are the first one getting it. The doctors, the health assistants, the police officers, all that kind of stuff. Like they're the first one to get it, which makes a lot of sense. And a lot of those people have received their second dose already. Don't quote me on that. That's just off the top of my head. But when it comes to the average, to the general population, the rollout hasn't gone exactly. It hasn't gone as fast as they want to, but they have high expectations that by summertime, they'll have the majority of people who should be vaccinated. They expect them to have been vaccinated. So based on how it's done so far, I feel like it's a little like pushing it, or it's very optimistic to say the least.
Mhm.
But they claim to have that the strategies in place to have the right amount of people vaccinated by summertime. So all we can really do is hope that is true.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, as far as India is concerned, very we are expecting the third wave, and what we are expecting the third wave is to start in September. So before September, the target of the Indian government is that at least 10% of the Indian population gets vaccinated. It
Mm.
is not that the government is doing absolutely everything. They are doing what they can, but it's that the people are also not doing what they should be doing. The rollout of the vaccines had started in Feb. People were not so willing to go and get vaccinated. If they had been vaccinated, the second wave might have even been averted. But
Yeah,
things are what they are right now, and based on the population, because we have a huge population, we are only going to get around 10% people vaccinated by like August.
hmm,
And I know US is having an excess of 100 million doses right now. So the thing that I would like to see is that people in US do get themselves vaccinated as soon as possible, because that is the only thing that is saving lives.
yeah,
It's still
yeah.
quite a debate in the US. even at my house. So
but
That's
you see
it's quite individual.
that.
that's the I think that's one of the reason why we do these kind of shows, because if there's anything I've learned so far, is that this pandemic has taught me that in order for us to help others, or in order to help others, it is very important that we all develop what I would say increased sensitivity, um, and learning and figuring out ways that we can reach out, and not just reach out, but understand the needs of the people that we are trying to reach out to, as we provide them with the services, whether is the COVID shot, or whether it's to get tested, whatever that is. We have to understand who these people are and understand where they're coming from. And so that communication, that line of communication, to me, it's vital that we keep that conversation going, and for government to be, and I'm glad both of you mentioned that, daily, that they are on the news, they are telling you what's happening. So they are not only being transparent, but they're also being vulnerable. So that way people can begin to trust them again. And so to me, that's a wonderful thing.
It
Um,
is. It is very wonderful to see that. I think Vlad mentioned that transparency, because one thing that, like Monday said before, there's always going to be conspiracy. There's always going to
mhm,
be groups out there that just outliers, and it is what it is. And as a
mhm,
government, you know that exists. And at the end of the day, your job is to take care of as much as you can. It's never going to be 100%.
mhm.
Not 100%. If you say right now, unless, even if it was money driven, that you need everybody to get on the project, then some people is like, why, what's going on? There's always going to be that, but at the end of the day, you have to look at how much it's benefiting. And I think that the transparency that you're talking about in Canada is extremely important, because the word pandemic itself, it's scary. I don't know if anybody that hear the word pandemic that doesn't get some kind of fear, because it is scary. It's all over the world and everybody's affected and we're all scared.
And
Yeah.
the thing is that with the word pandemic too, when when that word first came out, a lot of people didn't really know what it meant. It just sounded like there's a mass eradication of humanity happening right now.
Yeah.
It is like that's not what it means. Like that's what we mean by transparency. Pandemic just means that this virus is present everywhere across the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when people hear pandemic, they hear like this is the eradication of mankind,
Yeah.
which is not. If we implement the right strategies and go about it the right way, we can. This is something that can go away in, like, I don't know how many years. I'm not a health expert. You know what I mean? But it's true, and that's why, again, the stress that people are feeling, it needs to be received
Agreed.
with the right kind of communication.
All right.
And,
Not
and, I,
every,
and, I, and I tell people all the time, like, Vlad, you mentioned something about
Mhm.
the fact that people are using social media and internet and things like that, and as a way. And I'm actually telling people, you know what, sometimes you don't even realize, we're home and we're going through this data and we don't have any interruption. We don't realize how lucky we are to even have the platform to have no interruption. You can
Mhm.
go on the internet and you don't have any interruption. You have people from other countries that's going through this, and they have to pay an insane amount of money just to get the same clip that you watching over and over. So for me, I come from a sense of gratitude. I've always looked at things the best, no matter how bad they are, because even with where things are, it could still be worse, and it's still worse for some other people.
Yeah.
So I really come always trying to look at it from a sense of gratitude. We are here. There's a lot of people, unfortunately, from last year, from yesterday, that didn't make it through this pandemic. And we have access to do shows like that. You have access to entertain people. So we need to stay in a positive mode so that we can hopefully overcome this. And we will overcome it.
Yeah, I remember we had a doctor on the show, Pat, if you can recall. She made a prediction, and that was at the very
That
outset
was
of
the
the
very first
pandemic.
one.
She said in every household, one out of three people will be exposed to COVID-19.
And so far, we had 2 out of 3. I don't know. I haven't checked with her to see if she had it, but I know my house had COVID and your house had COVID.
Yeah, yeah. And so,
So, yeah,
um, but I also want to take a moment to speak to perhaps those of you who are watching and still feel overwhelmed and overburdened by this pandemic. And maybe the conversation on COVID-19 also reminds you of someone that was very close to you that passed away. So if you need someone to speak to, we just put the suicide hotline. If you need someone to a shoulder to lean on or to talk to, listen, the Remedies family, we always here. You have our information as well, but we also want to provide you with the suicide hotline. That you don't have to do this alone, and you are not alone. That you can always find someone that you can talk to. Um, Having said all this, Abhijit, I know in India it's late right now, and for us, we just getting ready to enjoy the day. But for you, you should be in bed. So I, instead of making this show an hour and 30 minutes, and out of respect for you, we're gonna end it at 1 o'clock today. How does that sound to you?
Well, I would like to add one more thing for
Absolutely.
like you said, for the people who have thoughts of suicide, please go out and help at least one person.
Yes.
Go out and help one person. Then you can come back and think about it. But if you help out one person, you'll come to understand there are so many things that are not known to you. People are there who are in a more stressful situation.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that this virus has helped us all is that it has formed a global community out of the world. Everybody is together now,
Yeah.
and there will be no one who will be spared. And if you're thinking like that, this virus is not there, it is all a hoax. It is not. It is a true thing, and you should go out and help people whoever you can. And uh, God sees everyone, and I hope everyone gets help from you or someone else. And I thank you, Mondi and Patty and Vlad, for putting me on this show. And I hope somebody is helped by this talk show.
Yes,
Well,
indeed.
I do have a question for you, Abhijit. So, what are you doing to keep sane? You're the man of you're the man of your household. Abhijit's actually his wife is pregnant, so
Yeah.
congratulations. So, so what are you doing to keep the family together, to keep your sanity throughout such a heightened time right now?
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm helping people. If you help people, you keep your sanity together. If you remain isolated, if you remain secluded, you don't realize things that are practically happening outside in the world. So that is one thing that keeps me motivated. I try and help people as much as I can in this time. Although I can't go to every place, I sort of tell people what medicines can be taken, what tests can be taken right now, and what precautions can be taken. So that is the way uh, my soul gets food.
And of course, praying God, because we know your faith is up there.
Yes, certainly.
Love it.
Amen.
What
Vlad,
about you, Vlad? Same question for you.
yes.
How do I keep my sanity and keep
Yes.
honestly, like I said, it's a shameless promotion here. I run a platform on Instagram called black.soul.immortal, where what I do, I use my platform to promote positive black news, positive black images, and it sort of like counteracts, like I said, the negative stereotypes that have been portrayed in media of black people around the world. And things that the reception, because it's kind of it's not a gossipy. I don't want a gossipy media platform. I don't. It's not about putting down one another. It's actually meant to elevate and educate our people. The reception that I've been receiving from my brothers and sisters have been um, it's uplifted me to the higher degree, I would say. You know what I mean? And being able to put something positive out here and receiving positive energy back, especially during this pandemic. People take, I produce a lot of content. That's my main job. I'm a content creator, and I've sort of like I've sort of tried to make content that I feel like people would need, whether it's like social media. Mental health awareness, emotional health awareness, and all that kind of stuff, and invite people on my platform to have these very in-depth conversations, pretty much about how we feel.
Hmm.
Um, unfortunately, in Black communities, we don't have a lot of conversations about mental health and emotional health. So I try to have these conversations on my platform. So it's not just to provide it to other people, but it's also because it's done a lot of good to me,
Hmm.
and being able to, like I said, receive the positive fruit of my labor. It's you put honestly, all I've been doing is trying to put the best energy I could out here, and in return, waiting for that energy to come back to me. So don't let this pandemic dissuade you from doing good things, from doing good deeds. You know what I mean? You just like my friend Abby just said here, help people. You know what I mean? Try to find ways. How can you be productive? How can you make people feel the best that they can? You know what I mean? How can you contribute to people's well-being? It would trigger something in you that's going to make you feel very satisfied. So keep faith and just do your best out there. That's all I can really say.
Well said.
Thank
Well
you.
said.
Well said.
Well, family, I just want to take a moment to say how grateful I am and how happy I am to have it. Yet you and I, we spoke on the phone before, but we never met, and so this is a great opportunity for us. And I was very happy to know when I heard you were going to be on the show. I was like, finally, we get to see each other for the first time. And I just made a new friend from Canada, so
Yeah.
thanks thanks to my cousin for connecting us together. I want to say I am happy and thankful that we were able to have this conversation today. We want to wish you guys the very best. Please stay safe, keep the family safe, and keep saying, okay, in the midst of this pandemic. Vlad, I appreciate you. Anytime you want to come back to the show, feel free. We have each other's email, and
Yeah.
let's stay in touch. Definitely stay in touch. And Pat,
For sure.
to you as well. Continue to be safe and keep the family safe. I want to take a moment to acknowledge someone who's dear to me, who's celebrating birthday this week. My pop, my father, Raymond Dawsonville, who's, if those of you who don't know him, but if you see him, you see me, you'll think we are twins. That's how much we look alike. And my dad he's growing as in such a beautiful way. It's amazing to see. So this is what I look forward to when I get old. So this is amazing. So happy birthday, Dad. And also
Happy
my
birthday.
aunt Nelly, who's also celebrating her birthday. So we want to say happy birthday to both of them. And to the rest of the Remedy family, we want to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching the show, and thank you for being part of the show. So if I could summarize what we did today, it's simply this: we all need to learn to be sensitive, to be respectful, to be non-judgmental when we are dealing with people, especially in the middle of this pandemic. We also need to recognize and incorporate what we have learned from each other, what we have learned from other people, whether it's here in the US or India or Canada. There's always a lesson to learn, something perhaps they did or they didn't do that we can learn from so that we can continue to be ahead of this pandemic. Now, remember, although COVID-19 is a pandemic, but we also have COVID-19 is not just a public health issue, but it's also a mental health issues. So please make sure we take the time to reach out to someone if you feel that you need to speak to someone. There are therapists all over the world. There are therapists all over the internet. Reach out to someone. Call the hotline number. Let us know how we can help you. If you need to speak to someone, you can reach out to the Remedy family, and I promise you, I will connect you to the right place as well. So, with this in mind, I want to say thank you. I want to say I appreciate you guys. And I want to pray for you before you go. Father God, I ask that your blessing will be with this Remedy family, and especially those who are in India and in Canada who are dealing with the onset of this COVID-19 virus, and here in the US as well and around the world, family. Father God, we are all in the same boat. We are all dealing with this together. Give us the strength to figure out how to get out of this. Help us to come together as a family and reach out to one another and love and support and do and allow us to be the best that we can be for each other in our time of needs. And we thank you in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 Thank
Family,
you.
I want to say thank you again, Pat. Thank you, Abijad and
Thank
Vlad. A
you.
wonderful show. We will see you again for another episode here on The Remedy. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
You like what you hear? Tell a friend or a family member about the conversations that are happening live on The Remedy. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this with somebody that you know.